Hi everybody, it's Nisi and I'm doing this video because I don't really want to type. Okay, peace and stability to all. We're talking about Abraham. And Abraham, this right here is a map of where Abraham lived. Abraham lived in Asia. And I think most of us that are engaging in this study, we agree that Abraham was not a Jew. Okay? Because there was no Judah at that time. And there's some people say, well, he was a Hebrew, but Hebrew was not a religion that I know of. It was not an ancient religion. The ancient religions during that period, the oldest religion in the world is Hinduism. I don't know where the name came from. I don't know if it's a European translation, if it's been impacted by that. Something else we can consider that I just stumbled upon recently is shamanism. And the fact that he's in Asia matters because shamanism was prominent in Asian and African tribes. And when I say Asia, I'm talking about people who look like what we know to be the caste system. Well, I don't know. I think they're the lower chain of the caste system in India. They're the dark-skinned Indians, the people of India, who have the straight hair or maybe some curly hair. And then we have to consider Nimrod, who in the book of Genesis says he created some cities in where, like right around here where Abraham was. So he could have been a combination, a mixture of what was called Asian, people of India, that we know look like in India, and then African. Okay, so that's the look. Now the religion is shamanism and or Hinduism. And the one thing about shamanism that we have to consider is the shaman priest. The shaman priests were highly gifted, intelligent people. And they were able to do things that most people couldn't do. They were able to read the stars. They were able to practice divination. They could tell you what was going to happen in the future. And they had things that they did that could give them this, maybe put them in a spiritual place where they could do it. All of them were not evil. Some of them were tricksters and they played mind games. They were illusionists. They could make you think one thing was happening and it wasn't. They were like magicians to a certain degree. And that is something I think we should consider when we read the story of Abraham biblically based on history, shall I say, based on history. Now, mystically, spiritually, then it's God testing Abraham to see if he was going to follow him. Historically, it could have been a shaman playing games because that's what they did. And a lot of people were afraid of the shaman because they wielded a lot of power. And something else to consider during that period, priests didn't have jobs. They lived off the people. They lived off the sacrifices. And that is something to consider, that everybody had a deity that they were following. And some people were named after the deities. Okay, I'm going to try to do this real quick as usual. Okay, so take a look at this. This is called we all know the rabbit, also called the hare. And this, believe it or not, was an ancient deity. I just ran across this in this book that I've had for a while called Egypt, Dictionaries and Civilizations. The rabbit is a part of the Great Five. And one thing about the people of Egypt, they acknowledged the ancient deities of everybody. They didn't necessarily follow them, but they acknowledged them. And it was like a melting pot of ancient people and their deities. And so they honored this deity. They did not worship the deity because it's really, really old. And it is linked to human sacrifice and burning of the bodies. You can check that out and confirm that information. The original name of the rabbit was the Robbo, I think it was Robbo, okay? And it was also called the hare or the Kara. It's also called the Lepus. It's linked to the constellation. And this rabbit or the hare had to have had priests that were practicing whatever was going on, whatever they were doing in ancient times. I'm still trying to understand it. But it is something that, again, if you're reading the Bible, you might want to be familiar with who the ancient priests were and the stories of the Greeks, who I believe got a lot of their stories from ancient Africa. We're all familiar with cultural assimilation, and they took those stories and they made them into their own. The Titans and the Olympians, the old priests, the old religions that are now having to be dealt with, the newer priests, the newer religions that don't necessarily believe the same things that the older ones did. Maybe they don't want to do the human sacrifices anymore. Maybe they don't believe that you have to go through a lot of the blood rituals anymore. And so you're coming against these older types of practices that people have been practicing for millions of years, and you're trying to introduce something new and nobody wants to hear it. So when we look at Abraham and we look at the situations that he was dealing with and encountering, okay, and we look at Moses and we look at the hardening of the Pharaoh's heart, and then tell him no, and then tell him yes, and then tell him no, we should consider that these were shaman, not evil. They were tricksters, and they had no sense of morality. There was no such thing, morality and integrity, as well as it was in Hinduism, because Hinduism wasn't necessarily a religion. It was a lot of, well, whatever you feel, because it is, but then it's not. Okay, that's kind of how it was with them. This is not to destroy your faith or to make you weak. Because if you believe in the mysticism and the spirituality of the Bible, and that God was doing all these things for a reason, then that's what you're going to believe. But if you're going to look at the Bible biblically, if you're going to look at the Bible historically, you should consider these ancient religions, because Abraham was not Jewish. And if we're going to say he was Hebrew, what does the Hebrew mean? And what ancient deity is it related to? Because everybody had one. And every religion, every ancient deity was either on the side of man serving the priest or God, or the priest or God serving man. So this is something to consider. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.